Hello there, everyone. We are back with Haas and some F1 Manager today, and we're going to continue our Haas Hard Challenge. Now, provided that we do actually win this season, I think that is going to be it for this Haas Challenge. It's been noted on my videos several times now that I have stretched myself a little bit too thin, and I do agree, so we'll be trying to wrap this up within the season. But currently, it's still a pretty close fight here with the Red Bulls. We have just 17 points of advantage in the team championship, and we have a good 44 points in the drivers' championship. So it's not terrible, but it's also not amazing. We're also going to get a new chassis designed before the race weekend, but I don't know if we're actually going to end up using it. So for now, we're going to go ahead and replace some of the damaged parts from our last race, and that is actually fairly simple and straightforward. But yeah, we are most likely going to getting a new chassis, I would hope. We can go ahead and manufacture a few front wings, which we can't because we're currently on emergency manufacture. That is problematic. But if we take a quick look at our car currently, it is fairly good. We're still lacking a little bit in top speed. But since this is the day after a race, I assume most cars haven't actually been updated with new parts. So we'll have a look before Austria instead. Engineer and driver tension between Gannon and Magnussen. We will try and intervene. It just feels like that is the best option. And they'll potentially temporarily have a little bit less affinity, but it's not necessarily a huge deal. Okay, so this chassis is getting close to the one that we want to make. We're going to make one more before that, so I think we should be fine with 3 of them, I hope. Basically, we shouldn't have to manufacture an extra part, is what I'm saying. But we can never be certain. We're going to go ahead and get 3 front wings made, though, because having a bit of a stock of front wings is going to benefit us in the long run. Side pods here, let's go ahead and make at least one of those. So we are stacked up. And let's also go ahead now and see just how good the chassis that we could design has would be. But yeah, as you can see, we can't get that done yet because we had the event where we got 6 design slots, and it's currently run out. So we're going to have to wait until one of these 23-day projects are done before we do that. So side pod suspension, we'll have a look at that once we're actually done with the next race. Side pods are in low stock, I agree. Underfloor 2 is a little bit problematic. There we go. New design of the side pods have been completed, and we'll have a look at that in just a second. So yeah, a small boost here, mainly in the engine cooling department. We're still going to have to refine this further before we actually end up making it. I do believe would be good. We could probably benefit from sacrificing a little bit of, as I probably mentioned last time, we could probably sacrifice a little bit of the high-speed turning to get a little bit better engine cooling. But honestly, 56-60% is not bad. And I think we're just going to need all the performance that we can get to try and finish the season up a little bit earlier, potentially. What I'm basically saying here is that we are going to be trying to use the parts that we have now to, by the end of this year, let's say with 2-3 races remaining, basically have secured the title so we don't need to buy any extra engines. It's a bit of a gamble, but it's not a gamble that I feel is risky in any way, shape, or form. So that should be fine. For Austria here, we're going to go with both cars in Q2 and Q3. That should not be a problem. And I believe that we are ready for the race weekend itself. Let's go there. It is a sprint weekend. It is going to be dry throughout, which is good. Let's head there and see if we can extend our lead a little bit. We are ready for the sprint. We qualified 3rd and 6th, but the order was pretty close. We were basically a 10th of pole, even down in 6th. So nothing too shabby there. Every car is pretty close here in this lineup. So we're going to do the simple thing here. We're going to go with the mediums. We're going to be running them on full attack for the first lap or so, like we usually do. And then we'll turn them down to play them a little bit more conservative. We'll lose about a second, but that extra tire life will hopefully be enough that we will be able to climb a little bit further up before the start of the race on Sunday. Now, Verstappen has taken a penalty, which he will be serving on the race itself. The Red Bulls are starting front of the grid. We have Alonso there. We have the Ferraris. We have the McLaren of Norris. So as you can imagine, it's going to be a pretty close affair here, most likely. Good start there too from Hulkenberg. But not as good from Magnussen, getting a little bit drag race there against the Ferrari. Fortunately, couldn't get him. But looks like we still have a bit of a chance here, so it's not all bad. Although Sainz did win out in that corner. But with Hulkenberg making up a place, it's still looking really, really good. And I think we're already in a state where we can just go ahead and tune down tire usage a little bit. Because as I said, the goal here is very simple: to keep the tires alive, stick with the DRS train, and then by the end of this, hopefully be able to get to get a little bit better of a starting position for the race on Sunday. Now Magnussen looks like he might be left behind it because Sainz is actually pretty slow. But I think we will be fine. So we'll just allow things to progress like this until we get a little bit closer to the end of the sprint. I don't think we're going to have any big struggles, honestly. So let's see how things turn out. We're getting very closer to the end of the race. We are on lap 17, about to start lap 18. Hulkenberg has been left behind, but on the other side, Magnussen has been able to get the job done. And I think we're going to go ahead now and get onto the aggression and go a little bit more attacky. And it might be slightly too early, but I've had a habit lately of attacking too late. So we're going to try and have Magnussen here now basically get away from the Ferraris, break the gap. And if you can do that, that would actually be quite amazing. Looks like we're getting close, but we're probably going to need one more lap to get that done proper. But Magnussen has kind of broken away from the Ferraris. And that alone is quite massive here. Now, the question is just how... if we can close up to the Red Bulls. Let's face it, starting 3rd and 4th is acceptable. Red Bulls are going to get a few points more than us, but it's a sprint. It's not anything that's going to be super, super decisive for the championship, so I'm fairly happy with it. But we are closing in slightly here from Hulkenberg. 5-4, so gaining 4 tenths. Hulkenberg will be, by the end of this, within striking distance, and that is kind of the big deal. So let's see if we can get him into that said striking distance. I think he'll be getting there. And the question then is, do we have enough time, energy, and, well, tire available to try and get an overtake done on one or maybe even both of the Red Bulls? And I think it'll be fine, but as you can see, the Red Bulls do have a little bit of DRS training going right now. So they are helping each other out with just keeping that gap kind of where it is, which is a bit unfortunate. Hulk also didn't have the best lap there. Half a second slower than Magnussen, so that probably also did play a bit of a part in that. As our tires now are entering that superheated stage. So it looks unfortunate, but Verstappen Perez just a little bit too quick, which is honestly not too surprising. They're in a Red Bull. And we just are that half a second too slow to actually catch up to them. So it is what it is, but as I said, I'm happy with the 3rd and 4th. It might be a little bit conservative strategy-wise, but it gives us a very, very good starting point now for Sunday's race. So can't be too upset. At the same time, would have liked more, which racing team wouldn't, but as you can see, Verstappen is going to be eating a penalty. So we should be moving up to 2nd and 3rd on the grid, which should make it a little bit easier for us to actually perform well. Now, in terms of strategy around here, 2 stoppers are viable, but most strategies here, as you can see, have about the same time in terms of stoppage. So what I'm thinking is that we do something maybe like this. Saves a few seconds compared to the baseline. But that's nothing much. It's just a second faster than these strategies. And if we were to, say, mess around with the soft tires a little bit, let's turn this into medium. We'll go with full attack like we usually do at the start. We'll move the soft tire back if it wishes to cooperate with me. And then we'll add another soft tire. How does this look compared to the medium one? This is actually slower, as you can see, compared to the base strategy. So this is probably the best that we can hope for. The degradation is somewhat high around here. We could also gamble on a 1-stopper. But yeah, if we can do this, I think this is the best. It'll just allow us to get a little bit of a gap created on both of these. And then we just take the mediums on to the end. So I think that is the best we are going to be getting here, honestly. Again, pit stops are kind of risky. So honestly, with just a 1 second difference, the best play would probably be to do this one, but it's gonna kind of limit our abilities at the start of the race. But as you can see, running the medium stint on light should be beneficial. So yeah, there's just a second between these. I think honestly this might be the best that we have because we'll just end up going longer. But I do like the attack for one reason. You're gonna get overtakes done, which is gonna build confidence, which is gonna help your race time. So we're gonna gamble on a two-stop attack, simply because again, overtakes equals confidence, and that confidence gives your driver extra stats, which has a huge impact on race pace and also the chance of incidents. It is a little bit risky with potential. Let's say we get a red flag, but I think it's gonna be okay. Let's jump directly into the race here and see if we can extend our lead over the Red Bulls.
It's the race we've all been waiting for. It's the Austrian Grand Prix.
So where did Verstappen end up?
Lights out, and away we go.
Down in 11th. That is quite a demotion. Looks like we are holding on to our positions, but we didn't get any real attack goings on Paris, which is fine. Most players here, or most drivers, are on the medium tire. We have a couple of soft runners and a single hard runner. So everything is kind of as expected, if you will. But yeah, we had a good start. We held on to second and third. Verstappen had a bad start. He actually lost out of a position. That's good for us. But yeah, the goal currently is just going to be to kind of run our first stint here, try and work our way past Perez, try and create as big of a gap as we can to the cars behind, as Hulkenberg currently puts himself at the back of the grid. So we're going to have to do something with this strategy because he's going to have to pit early and he's going to be at the back of the order. So that is very, very unfortunate.
Right, so this was the...
I didn't actually get to see the lockup, just the fact that he was parked at the side of the road. That's very unfortunate. But yeah, Hulkenberg, there's nothing really we can do for him. The only thing we can do is to try and have him just go attack, get that confidence back by doing overtakes. Because as mentioned, the -4, -5 to everything here is very detrimental to his pace. And also the chance of incident is very high, which is, you know, further a bad thing. But the Vries here should be an easy target, hopefully. And it should help a little bit of confidence. Right now we're losing some because we can't get the overtake done. But I'll keep on working Hulkenberg forwards. We'll keep on working Magnussen forwards. And hopefully we can get Hulk back into the points by the end of this. We'll have to see how it goes, though. We've had an incident with De Vries, who we luckily cleared. So not us having an incident, but the Alfa Romeo there did kind of get snatched, and that was cars out of order for sure. So Show gets a bit of a penalty there somehow. But yeah, currently we are looking well. Hulkenberg has made his way up to 16th place. Magnussen is still running in first, but he is switching back and forth with Perez constantly. So not really able to create a gap here. So we're kind of wasting our tires a little bit. And that is a bit problematic because the gaps that have been formed aren't huge. If we were to pit right now, we'd end up behind Hulkenberg. So it is a bit worrisome, honestly. Might be that we have actually elected the absolute worst strategy here. But yeah, Magnussen there getting double overtaken. So we're going to have a little bit of work ahead of us here, unfortunately. But we'll do the best that we can to kind of deal with it here. So we're currently done our first set of pit stop. Magnussen is now in the pits. Unfortunately, it's going to be coming out, as mentioned, pretty far back. But he does have a little bit of a gap here to work with. Hulkenberg is, as you can see, a good 18 seconds back from that again. And what I am banking on for Hulkenberg here is just straight up that the degradation on these hard tires are going to be slightly less than what we expect. So that we can run just the same strategy. And for Magnussen, we're just going to have to try and close down the gap to Perez as much as possible, and that is going to make it so that we can hopefully jump him in the pits and then extend the gap where he, you know, does not get the benefit of the RS. That's going to be the hope here. Currently, we are running around the same lap times as Perez and Leclerc because, well, they are getting the RS of each other, so it's a little bit problematic, honestly, that they are kind of helping each other out like that. But it is Austria, it's kind of what you expect. But now that we're getting some temp into these tires, Magnussen running 0.68 or 6.8 rather is actually getting a bit of time compared to the rest. And we actually have Leclerc in the pits And that is a long pit stop, which give Magnussen enough of a chance to actually jump him again. But yeah, we're going to be working Magnussen forwards as efficiently as we can. Hopefully we can get some overtaking done. Hopefully we don't get stuck too much. But yeah, we'll be doing our best to just move him forwards in an efficient manner, and we'll do the same with Hulkenberg, and then we'll see where we stand once we get to the next pit stop. So unfortunately for us here, we have been completely unable to leave both Leclerc and Paris behind. As you can see, they've caught up with Magnussen. It's not something super terrible, but at the same time, it's not great. Degradation is just slightly less than anticipated, so Hulkenberg is actually going to be fine from that perspective. But as you can see, we are struggling to really make any sort of inroads, and there's two reasons for this. We have low confidence, but we're now in a position where a lot of the other cars have pitted, and as such, they do have a fairly significant tire advantage. But as you can see, a lot of them did want to go to the softs, so what's going to happen is that everyone is basically on a two-stopper at this point. So by getting Hulkenberg in early and have him run the mediums on conserve, we can hopefully jump maybe up to Verstappen. That's probably being hopeful. Realistically, we'll maybe jump up to Tsunoda. But that's kind of going to be the hope here, that we can jump them purely due to the fact that we are hitting earlier. But it is very hard to leave cars behind here, DRS-wise. It's 3 zones, basically very, very close to each other. So it does make it a bit challenging to get past. But at least we have got his confidence somewhat back in order. That's going to make life a little bit easier. Paris has created a pretty huge gap here while it was focused on Hulkenberg, so that's not great. But
Tires are quite hot.
I think what we're going to be doing here is pitting Hulkenberg on this following lap. Not this one, but the next one. Then we'll do Magnussen in short succession as well. Now, in terms of where they should be coming out, Magnussen should be coming out basically around behind Gasly, basically. Hulkenberg is going to be coming out 22 seconds, so behind Ocon, Piastri, Bottas, which is unfortunate. Would be nice to get in ahead of that train, but honestly, it's going to be quite a gap down to them because it's going to be coming out at 44 seconds. So just ahead of Rick. I had a mind fart there for a second. I thought it was 34 seconds, but that would be a 10-second stop. That would have been amazing, though, let's be honest, but no way that happens. So we're going to get Rick in. Sorry, get Hulkenberg in. Jesus, I am actually melting today. But yeah, we're going to get Magnussen in now on the following lap. This one. Good stop there from Hulkenberg. Comes out in 16th ahead of Rick, what we expected. And for Magnussen here, he hopefully will be able to beat Norris out. That's going to be the hope. Let's see what we can do at this stop. Remember, this is going to be our final pit stop, so we would really, really love to do well. 3.1 seconds. It's going to come out behind Gasly, ahead of Norris, which is what we expected. And that's actually fine. Since we are running the tires light, it's going to take a few laps to warm them up. So being given DRS is not the worst thing ever. We're going to keep on working these cars, working our way forwards, and see if we can, by the end of this, get back ahead of the Red Bulls. But I think it's going to be probably a little bit challenging. We'll do our best, though. So virtually everyone has just pitted. Leclerc had another issue. But as you can see here, Paris come back out on the hard tire. Verstappen on the soft. Stroll on the hard is still ahead, but both of them are going to have to pit. So this is going to be fairly interesting here. Unfortunately, Hulkenberg is still not close enough really to get any of these guys on the jump. Leclerc comes out in 9th after having another pit stop issue. But what I thought we'd have a quick look at here is actually the hard versus medium fight, which is what we're going to have now. The medium tire here compared to the hard tire has about 3.5 advantage, 200 difference degradation. So we basically have an advantage here for about 16, 17 laps if we pit it at the same time. But keep in mind, we're also running them on light. So honestly, as long as Magnussen stays with Paris here, we're gonna be happy. So this actually works out in our advantage that he came out alongside us. But Hulkenberg has not had a good weekend here. He had another lockup, but luckily he didn't lose too much confidence from that. We'll have to see if we can work him forward, though. It's going to be, again, as I said, a bit tough. But we'll do the best that we can to get Hulkenberg back in the points. We've had an incident, multiple cars have crashed, and we're also getting closer to the end of the race, so let's just see what happened. I assume it's a light touch again. Yes, that is it. That could have been a very interesting rejoin, though. Could really very well have slapped Gasly in the side again.
Get back in this fight.
But yeah, as you can see, Magnussen and Hulkenberg both have their rivals. We've actually gotten Hulkenberg back up into 9th place. That's a little bit of a penalty. But the fight with Russell is definitely slowing him down a bit, which is unfortunate. And for Magnussen now, we're kind of getting into a mode of just, we're going to bring the fight to him in the last few laps. So Perez still has a bit of a tire advantage, which is not great. We're going to have to make our move under DRS to get things done. And Verstappen and Alonso are currently fighting as well. So Verstappen has done a good race. He's actually made his way back up into a good point scoring position. But yeah, we have a bit of a challenge ahead of us here with both Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Hopefully Hulk can at least score an 8th. It would be amazing if he catches Stroll. But as said, I'm very doubtful of that happening. And for Magnussen right now, we are just kind of trying to get set up so we can actually attack for hopefully the race win, so we don't lose out too many points this race weekend. Now, Hulkenberg would most likely be up there with him if it wasn't for, you know, getting yeeted to the back of the grid, which you can kind of see here. He's 25 seconds behind, which is basically most of the time that he lost being running wide. And it's a part of the race, but it's just very unfortunate and a little bit frustrating. 3 laps to go now. Tires are, as mentioned, a bit concerning. Magnussen has also fallen a little bit further behind than I would like, so let's see if we can get him closer. Back market causing problems as per. And I think we're just going to have to go ahead and push fuel a little bit here and deploy, because that back market actually allowed Perez to get away a little bit here. On that last lap, 6/10 slower, so you do kind of get the idea that, yeah, back market is currently being not the friendliest to us, and that is very, very frustrating. I think Show even gave Perez DRS there, and by the looks of it, he did. So, yeah, Perez is now up and away, most likely. 2 laps to go, though. We're going to go ahead and go full attack. We're going to go ahead and push. Hulkenberg doesn't really have the tire for the same kind of push, but we can push fuel. And we're going to try and get close on this lap, attack on the next. But Stroll now is actually getting close enough that he could be a issue as well. So that is a bit of a different problem. But yeah, I don't see Magnussen catching Paris, unfortunately. And for Hulk here, the goal is just going to be to try and get as close to Russell, get an overtake done, maybe get close to Stroll as well. We had a crash with Tsunoda. That's a pretty rough one, to be fair. Would not surprise me if safety car. It also did kind of mess up the plan here. Another car is retired. So yeah, unfortunately, just didn't have enough time for that lockup. Should probably have ran it a little bit safer. But yeah, Magnussen here just didn't have what was needed. And it is running on the yellow, so I guess we just aren't allowed even to do the overtake.
Checkered flag.
And it does seem like that because Hulkenberg just isn't launching any attacks. So, double unlucky here. Is this going to bring Red Bull back into contention though, which is a little bit worrying. But, should I have done a one-stopper? Maybe. It would have been more beneficial. Because we just couldn't get away because of the 3 DRS zones. So I had a hope that we would. We couldn't. And that really, really backfired. So Perez first, Verstappen third. We have Alonso, Sainz, and Leclerc. Stroll, Russell, and Gasly. Last point scorer. So Magnussen still has the lead in the championship. But Perez is closing in, overtaking his teammate in the process. And in the Constructors then, we've actually been overtaken by Red Bull. So we have a little bit of a fight on our hands here. Financially, we are good. And let's see what we can do in the next race. Hopefully we'll have a bit of a better time in Silverstone. Okay, new ATR period. We'll have to take a look and see what would be best in terms of spending it on. We can arrange a meeting for Magnussen and Gannon to solve their differences, which is good. And every single one of our car parts did pass inspection, which is also nice. So yeah, we'll have a look at that in basically 12 days. See what we want to invest in. See what is lacking compared to our competitors is probably the best way to figure out what we want to invest in. And currently we have our front wings back up to 4. So that is looking good as well. We have some contracts ending, but as I said, this is probably going to be the last season, so we're not going to be messing with that. And for now, let's just set up our performance targets. We should have 1 car on the podium again. Again, I just feel it's safer to do 1 car rather than 2. And Q2 guaranteed. Both cars into Q3. Should be no problem as well. So let's head to Silverstone. It is going to be a rainy Sunday, which is bad news for us. We are bad at following. But we'll see if we can maybe get out in a good position. As long as we don't get, bogged down at the back of the grid. Hit a bit early. We might still be fine, but we'll have to see. Let's head to British Grand Prix. And hopefully it won't be, well, it might be torrential rain. So we'll have to see how that actually plays out for us. Well, we went slightly in our favor. We basically have the Red Bull switch between, then Alonso, the 2 Mercs, and Alpine's Ocon, Norris, and Sainz. So Ferraris did not have a good time here. Leclerc got sent out fairly early. So at least that is him and Stroll somewhat out of the equation. But yeah, we are going to have just a straight up fight here with the Red Bulls from the get-go. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing just how much rain we're going to get and when it's going to arrive. That's going to be the important part. It looks like basically a little bit of a halfway. We'll be seeing the rain arriving, and then it's going to become full wets virtually immediately. Although, to be fair, probably inters for like 4 laps. But would you be able to make enough time on those inters to just not go wet? I don't think so. So basically, we need to try and get something set up for lap 26. And doing the hard tire is viable for that. Doing the medium tire is also viable for that. The question is just, is it worth it to... Let's say that the rain arrives at lap... See, I want to have 2... Like so. Let's say the rain arrives at lap 27. And that's when we jump in for the wets. What would be the best thing here? Would it be to do a medium to a soft? Medium full attack into a soft tire? Would that be faster? Would we get stuck in traffic? Questions that keep me up at night. How would that be looking? And as you can see, these are quicker just purely due to the fact that they do not have a wet tire involved. But let's take a look here. If we do go wet again, lap 27... what would that look like in terms of just doing this with the medium? Looks like we're going to get about the same in terms of pace, so this is not necessarily a good idea to push. So what I'm thinking we're going to do here is actually just run the medium on light from the get-go. And then we're going to jump onto the wet tire. The problem with this strategy is, of course, the fact that we don't have the best weather center. So we don't actually know how exactly or when exactly the rain is going to arrive with absolute certainty. So that is a bit of a problem. Currently it's lap 26, 27. Again, probably where we're going to have to pit according to this. So that is also a bit of a problem. So we either gamble on starting on the mediums, or we play it safe, run a medium on full attack, then we go into a soft tire. That would kind of keep us safe in the event that the rain arrives later, but it would also put us at risk if the rain arrives earlier. So I think what we're going to do is actually a split strategy here, interestingly enough, because as long as we split the strategy, one of them is going to be correct. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for here. So we're going to put Hulkenberg on the potential 1 stop. We're going to put Magnussen on the 2 stop. He does start up ahead. And again, if the Red Bulls are taking care of their tires, they should be able to get away. And if they don't, well, then he'll be stuck with them. And we might be able to slow down and put him on Hulkenberg's strategy. But we'll see what we do here. I do believe a split is the best option for us, just to be on the safe side. So we're going to gamble on this. and jump into the race itself. We aren't quick enough really that doing a extra stop like this is guaranteed to be, you know, working properly. So we basically have Hulkenberg as a bit of an insurance, and that's fine.
The British Grand Prix is... Hold on tight. It's the British Grand Prix.
Okay.
And it's
Medium tyres for virtually everyone. Kind of tells us what we need to know there, in the sense that everyone should be running somewhat the same strategy. Good starting for Magnussen, gets away nicely. Hulkenberg too gets away nicely from the cars following him. And now we have the Red Bulls to contend with. Now, because of the fact that we're going to have torrential rain at the end, I think we're just going to be pushing fuel down to, say, -4 kilos, which is a lot, don't get me wrong, but the wet period is going to give us a lot of that fuel back, and if we need to, we'll just run conserve as well, and we'll get it back over the course of just a few laps. So I don't think that is going to be too much of a big deal. Now, we're already going to tune Hulkenberg down, because, let's face it, we've run the first lap here. He is relatively safe. I don't think he's going to get overtaken. There is a risk, though, that he's going to be left behind, but again, I think it's going to be okay. We have better cornering than the Red Bulls, so as long as we catch up in this corner before we get DRS, I think we'll be fine. But yeah, everyone here does seem to be pushing fairly aggressively at the moment, which is usually how it goes to race starts. But yeah, Hulkenberg has DRS, so he should be good. That said, the main question for this race now is just when exactly is the race gonna arrive? And we have Magnussen and Perez having crashed. What exactly happened?
Oh dear, a crash.
Did Perez run into Magnussen, is what I would assume.
Now this is Sergio Perez.
Or
Not a lot of wiggle room here.
Perez tapping the back tire of Magnussen.
Impact between them. I imagine.
Wondering who's going to be blamed for that one. But yeah, that is very frustrating.
Here we are, going into turn 9. Pushing a bit too hard at this point. Oh, and the car's there, unable to keep out.
Potentially going to be Magnussen's fault there, just due to the fact that we got shown Magnussen last. But yeah, we come out ahead of Perez at least. Didn't suffer any damage, luckily enough. But it's still going to be painful to get back up into the points with this, because we need to catch up to the back of the grid. Then we need to work through, so... And yeah, Magnussen did, in fact, pick up a penalty for that, so... Yeah, that's just extra punishment. And it actually kind of forces us to pit earlier, simply because we have to pit to get rid of that penalty before the rain arrives. So today is not a good day for the boys, and the rain has already moved one lap sooner. So Hulkenberg here could be set up with a fairly good strategy, but because Perez and Magnussen crashed out, Verstappen actually has a gap now. Hulkenberg no longer has DRS to work with. So Verstappen has a huge chance to extend that lead a little bit more.
Got a yellow flag.
Russell follows up what happened with Magnussen, has to spin of his own. But yeah, we're going to have to try and build up that confidence fairly rapidly. Just use up this medium, go into soft tire, and just see what we can do. So I'll be working on getting Magnussen forwards. We'll have Hulkenberg just kind of trying to take care of his tires here. And we'll see how we are when Magnussen does pit, or when the rain arrives, whichever is more interesting. The rain has slowly been inching closer. We're currently set for lap 23 for when it starts. So what I'm thinking here is that we're actually just going to get Magnussen on this lap, run those softs on standard, and try and make up some of that time. So basically, we did pick kind of the wrong strategy with an extra stop. And there are actually a few other cars that have done the same thing, namely Sainz and Russell. So, as you can see, there are some differing strategies, but I, again, just think that we do need to get Magnussen in for two reasons here to get rid of that penalty. He has done a few overtakes, so he has been getting a bit of confidence back. So hopefully we can get back to the back of the pack within 10 laps, trying to get some overtaking done. And even then, it is going to be quite difficult, but at least we do come out ahead of Russell. But yeah, it's not looking amazing. Let's just put it like that for Magnussen's chances this race. Norris actually ends up pitting, which is a bit interesting. Which means that we might see some silly pits from other cars as well, interestingly enough. But yeah, we'll have to see exactly how this turns out. Currently, Hulkenberg, though, is looking to be set for a podium. It is going to be difficult to get Verstappen. I think the main way we're going to be getting Verstappen here is going to be through a pit error from the Red Bull team. And of course, we need to try and avoid having a pit error of our own. Rain has been moving even closer now, lap 22. And again, the question here is going to be, is it going to be better to go on the inters before we go on the wets? And of course, that is going to be a bit of a different issue in its own right. Now, Magnussen is currently running about a second quicker than Verstappen currently. But I think we are just going to have to try and push these tires. They should be able to keep attack up for about 6 laps time, which is when we would pit. So we're going to go all in here. We're going to be pushing. We're going to try and eat out or at least catch up to Perez. And Hulkenberg is going to have a hard job here with Verstappen, because that is going to be the end goal. Rain still up for lap 22. We'll wait for the rain to arrive, and then we'll make a decision on whether we go inters or if we go directly onto the wet tire. So rain has arrived, but before the rain arrived, Magnussen did manage to catch up to the back of Albon. We now have Perez ahead of us as well. But we are getting to a point where we could potentially get a few overtakes done. Now, as I mentioned, we are a little bit unsure what we want to do in terms of tires, but we're at least going to keep going for one more lap. But in 4 minutes, we're going to get proper full-on rain. So probably going to stay out for, as I said, one more lap. I think we're just going to skip the inters. It's just 4 laps time. I don't think we're going to be saving 5 seconds on the wets. Because that's basically it. It takes 22 seconds for a pit stop. We're going to have to save a lot to make it worth it. So I'm fine with Magnussen here doing one more lap. I assume De Vries, Leclerc, and Russell here are going to go onto inters, and that's going to be their bet. But currently, I don't think we have necessarily a need to do that personally, so hence why I've opted to wait a little bit. But yeah, they have opted for inters, and Alonso gets in. I'm curious what he's going to do, but we're going to just stay out for one more lap here. And I want to see what he puts on his car. We can actually just go and have a look at him instead of waiting for this. That looks like inters. So that means that's kind of an interesting choice, because I would assume wets is going to be right here. So it's just 3 laps. So we now have a difficult choice. Do we go onto the wets directly, which is, I think, the best option for us? Because as you can see, 2 minutes is estimated to come. A lot of rain is going to come. So I think we're going to do that for Magnussen here. It's supposedly 6 seconds slower, but again, if it's 3 laps and you avoid all of the pit stop trouble, then we might be able to regain the... I think we'll be able to regain the difference in time. So we're going to gamble on getting Magnussen in and directly onto the wet tire. We are going to have to run them standard at the very least aggressive, if you will. And I did actually leave Magnussen out for 1 lap too far there. We were a little bit too late with the call.
How is the track conditions?
Perez with a pit stop issue is not necessarily a good thing. But yeah, everyone has chosen to go in inters, and generally the AI is good at picking their tires. So I honestly don't know what I want to do here. Do I want to just mirror the AI? Or do I want to just gamble on going directly to the wets? And I think we have kind of set ourselves up here for having to go to the wets. It should just be 2 more laps until we get full rain anyways, because if we take... This is the current lap. This is basically when Verstappen starts his next lap. And again, 2 minutes until a lot of rain. It's just, well, it's 1 minute and 3 seconds. So getting Hulkenberg in on the wets is going to be the best option here, I think. And we're just going to double check that Magnussen is set up for that very same thing. Verstappen does 1 more lap, so I assume he's too is going to try and go directly to the wets. But yeah, I want to see now what kind of pace Hulkenberg has, and if we see any other cars coming in for the wet tire. Currently, we're the only ones, unsurprisingly. But yeah, we are shredding them pretty massively here, so turn them down to conserve. Might be that Verstappen is going to be the winner here due to him waiting 1 more lap. But it is going up fairly rapidly. But yeah, we are wasting a lot of tire by coming in a little bit earlier. Verstappen is going to come out ahead of us, but he has opted for the wet tire, and a lot of the cars now are going to have to pit for the wet tires at this point. So I think Magnussen could end up winning massively here because of that. Because if we take him as an example, Magnussen, 22 seconds ahead of him would be 25 seconds. He could potentially jump up into 5th if we play the cards right. Never mind. I love that his heat is going up while he's stationary because he spun. But yeah, that's his wets completely ruined again, so we're gonna pit him. That's just straight up frustrating. But yeah, they definitely get destroyed here fairly easily. So maybe the Inter boys were onto something. We'll have to see though. But yeah, Magnussen is not having a good time. Not at all. And the best thing was, the strategy that we had was actually working out until that, because he would most likely have gone up, back up ahead. So, it is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Finally, we're getting the temperature under control of Hulkenberg's car. But yeah, we definitely used a lot more tire than I would have liked. And as you can see, that could be a very, very big problem here. But everyone is now pitting. Magnussen has no chance of catching up. So we'll try and manage Hulkenberg here a little bit. And we'll see if we can keep this up until the end of this race. It's going to be difficult, but I have hopes. And Alonso's still out there on the Inters, and he's actually done a fairly good job there, because he should be coming out in, well, 4th position. So he could potentially benefit greatly here, as we have Rick with a bit of a spin. So let's see where Alonso actually comes out, because also he'll have fresher tires, he'll be faster because of that, but it is difficult to overtake in these conditions. But particularly for Hulkenberg here, you can kind of see the problem here. I don't think these wets are going to last till the end of the race. And that is my main concern. So I'm wondering if we should push all out or not. I think we're just going to have to try and nurse these until the end. I think that is our only bet at this point. It's 22 laps. So let's just see how much we use in terms of percentages here. 67 at the start of the lap. See what we get to by the end of it. Lose about 2.5%. Now we use less than 2%, just around 2%. So we have enough tire to basically get to the end, almost. Might need to run it a little bit light, but yeah, it's already on the cool side. I kind of do want to gamble on pushing it to the limit, though. Again, I do love doing that. Kind of like what we're doing here with Magnussen. Because Magnussen is going to have to push to even, get anything done. But the difference is, again, if we use 2% a lap, we have 20 laps to go, we're already running them way cooler than they're supposed to be, then I think the only real option we have is to push them. We should be able to create a gap to Hamilton. Worst case scenario, we fall down to 3rd. Best case scenario, it allows us to fight Verstappen in the last 10 laps of the race. So let's see what we can do here. We are going to go ahead and push. And currently, we're not really seeing any difference in the lap times. But we'll try it for this one lap as well. We are gaining a second on Alonso. And again, if we can just extend the gap to Alonso so we can safely pit, I would be happy with that as well. 37.4. So yeah, we are extending, again, the gap here. So I think by the end of this, we'll get Alonso at the very least and get that second place back. But Verstappen is going to be a tough nut to crack. Now, Perez seems to have had a bit of an incident as well, because he's now currently behind Magnussen. But we'll keep on pushing with Hulkenberg, see what we can do here. I do think this is going to be, again, just the best bet that we have. Yeah. And remember, we can push these tires up to 95 degrees and be somewhat safe. We're also going to get Inters for the last couple of laps there, so yeah. The weather is being very, very weird at the moment. It's the best way I can put it. But I think everyone is just going to stay on the wets for the last few laps. And that could also benefit us greatly if we are on fresher tires, because you can imagine, again, that the wets are going to get eaten up pretty rapidly once we actually get onto, dries. Hamilton actually pits there. That's interesting. because that does, again, make it certain that we're going to come out behind Alonso. But yeah, I think Alonso is going to be an easy target for us to some degree. And I think this is the lap that we're going to just get back in. Yeah, I think we're still fine. Should probably have pitted a lap earlier, to be fair. But the only real question behind the strategy is going to be, can we get past Alonso in a reasonable manner? And I do think we are going to be able to. We're just 5 seconds behind. We've been closing by a second before we pitted. And already you can see that we are just eating into that time incredibly rapidly here. I am going to tune him down to aggressive though, so we don't get super hot before we get behind Alonso. But yeah, we've been eating into his time very quickly. Although only half a second on that lap, so I guess we do need attack to get it done. But yeah, Alonso should be able to be re-overtaken by the end of this. But now that the question is going to be, are we going to have Inters at the end? It definitely looks like it. Definitely looks like we should have just stayed out. So that's going to be a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. But yeah, by the time we checked, we thought it was just going to be 2 laps of Inters. It was going to be a little bit more than that. But this does also add pressure on us to actually get the overtake done on Alonso. Because if we don't, he's going to have a bit of a pit advantage. So I'm going to put it onto high risk for overtaking. And we have a safety car. Okay, that throws a wrench in the plans. Because remember, if you're on the wrong compound when you pit, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be sent to the back of the grid. But there is, what, about 4 or so laps until we get to Inters. And it has to be moving forwards. So I think what we do here is we gamble in the Inters. We are going to jump on the Inters immediately under the safety car. Just hope there's not one of our cars that get taken out.
We've got a yellow flag here.
Let's have a look.
Let's follow the drivers then through.
Is this William and Williams' violence? It is indeed.
There, the cars make contact. A bitter blow too for more than one driver from the pack.
The worst part is the car that locked up is fine to keep going and the other car is out. That is frustration. Tsunoda takes out the competition, if you will. But yeah, Show is in the pits. I'm going to be very curious what he pits onto. I assume that everyone is going to, as I mentioned here, pit onto Inters, and that, again, just throws a wrench into our plans. Show with a pit stop issue. I want to see what the Verstappen pits onto. That looks like Inters, yeah. So everyone is just going to get on the Inters, and that does, again, just screw over the plan there with us pitting earlier for Hulk. That's not very good. We'll have to see if Magnussen can jump anyone in the pits, or if he's going to get stuck in traffic. Hopefully he doesn't have a pit stop error as well. That would be sad. He did lose out. Nope, did he? Nah, he came out in the same place. But yeah, we did lose out a little bit here, honestly, because of the fact that, well, things didn't go to plan. But yeah, what I mentioned earlier that might be a little bit confusing is that, oh, if we're on the wrong tire behind the safety car, we might fall backwards. I haven't actually tested this out yet. It's been very rare that I have a safety car as it's changing conditions. But earlier in this year's game, if you did it early enough, you'd basically be pushed to the back of the order because you were technically on the wrong tire for the occasion. But yeah, this actually works out to our advantage somewhat if we can clear Hulkenberg as well. Basically, if you were on Inters and wets. Sorry, let me just go through the things in order. So the thing with the safety car, just to be absolutely clear, because it can be a little bit confusing. If you were on the wrong tire for the conditions, let's say you were on wet tires in the dries, but while behind the safety car, even if you were third, you'd still lose positions and fall back to the back of the grid. And that's kind of what I expected to happen here, unless everyone pitted, which they did. Basically, if they'd stayed on the wets and we were on the Inters, Hulkenberg was viable to just fall back to the back of the grid, even if he came out ahead of the rest of the pack. So hopefully that does make sense. I know that I suck at explaining it, but yeah, we'll have to see what we do here. Hulkenberg, as mentioned, does have a chance though. Magnussen, not so much. But what I think we're going to do here is just going to be full attack till the end. Try and see if we can get something done. It's going to be Inters all the way. Maybe even Maybe even little enough that we get a little bit of action. And I'm going to keep Hulk here on high risk overtake. For low risk defend. I think that's going to be fine. Rick was the only lapped car. We'll do one more lap behind the safety car. Then we'll get going. Which means we'll have basically 4 laps of racing. 4 laps for Hulkenberg to do something amazing. See what we can achieve. But yeah, we ended up with 4 kilograms of positive, thanks to the safety car. That is quite amazing. And I believe we're back under racing conditions, somewhat. Yep. Just need to get to that the timing line, and then we can start trying to do overtakes here. Okay, Hulk, I need you to put in a stellar effort here. Get past the Aston ASAP. But the Aston's quick. Look at that. Already got a pretty decent gap on him. For Magnussen, he hasn't actually gotten any overtaking done, but he hasn't gotten overtaken either, and there's no need to take any risks with him. I don't think we're going to be getting into the points, honestly. It's just a few too many cars to overtake. For Hulkenberg, we're getting very close to the limit, 105 degrees, but we don't really have any other choice than to keep on pushing. Magnussen got 1 car, so he is doing a little bit of work. But as mentioned, getting up to 10th is going to be very, very difficult. Track is now reported to be dry. And we do get Alonso at least. Question is just now, can we, over the next couple laps here, chase down Verstappen as well? I think that is going to be very, very difficult. But we have DRS.
Yeah.
Did not get DRS for that one. But I really, really need DRS here to get that overtake done. If we can get DRS overtake done, then we might still be able to salvage this somewhat. Magnussen is a bit of a train. Again, not really much we can do for him. But for Hulk here, big chances to use the DRS and what little energy we have left to actually get a move made. And he might have made that move a little bit too soon. Because there's still... Never mind. Oh, come on. Are you for real? Are we going to eat a 5-second penalty?
Let's have a look at the action. It's all at the final corner. Dangerously close to each other.
I don't even know who was at fault there.
That was pretty risky. Now
but it could be us because we do have high risk overtakes, and now our confidence is in the gutter. So, do we want to keep the risk up? I don't think we have much of a choice, but like Verstappen now has DRS from Alonso. Overtake is going to be next to impossible. Can he eke it around the outside? No. Then we run very wide.
Low confidence on brake, 2-1.
You have no idea how correct that low confidence call
We
is.
can't risk it.
Oh, that is incredibly frustrating because, as you can see, we're getting overtaken by more cars now. We should be able to beat the Alpine to the line, though, is what I'm hoping for. Or maybe not. That's incredibly frustrating, but yeah, good one for Gasly.
Alonso has done it. Fernando Alonso is today's Grand Prix winner.
Alonso winning is not something I foresaw, but yeah, this has been a disastrous race.
Nico Hulkenberg's put it all together.
Probably not one of my worst, but definitely not one of my best either. But like the fact that Verstappen gets overtaken and then we have the crash and he just keeps second, that is insanely frustrating. Magnussen's incidents are also pretty bad. Again, if he could have jumped up into point scoring position, I'm just flabbergasted and sad, honestly. But yeah, pit stop error too, a little bit. We also had the penalty and everything, so yeah, just completely ruined for Magnussen. And for Hulkenberg, again, just the incident there where he touched Verstappen. Once I saw he was kind of close to making the move, I probably should just tune him down a little bit. But yeah, the fact that we got overtaken there by Gasly also ends our streak. So not been a good time. We do get the car part test center upgraded, and Magnussen goes up to 84. So not everything is doom and gloom. Luckily, June in Formula One. We have the development update, cornering, and adaptability. Why am I not surprised? Man's going to have 100 adaptability before anything else. Braking Falkenberg is actually huge as well. And yeah, we have basically an entire car that failed in terms of parts. So that's going to be a little bit challenging. Luckily, we have 11 days before we go to Hungary. So if we have parts that we have run out of, like the underfloor, we might be able to replace it. But as you can see, we do have a new one that is more KPH focused, so let's go ahead and install that in car 1 for the time being. Suspension, we're going to install a replacement, and let's see, do we have replacements for everything here? We should have. Chassis, I'm going to have to make a new one here, just to be on the safe side. We'll get it done before the next race. Front wings, we do have spares, so we don't really need to make them immediately. Still have a spare side pod, but by looks of it, we're going to have a series of failures, I guess is the best way I can put it. But for now, I think we're fine with the pieces that we have. It's not amazing, but it should be enough that we can keep going. Our pit crew, let's have a look at how they are looking. They are weary, unsurprisingly, so we're going to have to give them a little bit of rest. Then we'll put in a few drills before we go into Hungary. And I think we'll just do a little bit of pit stop errors, get that percentage down. It seems to be the best option for us. And there we are. We're actually going a little bit too high on the weariness. I think that's fine, but again, we'll just have a look after Hungary to get the rest of the pit crew setup sorted, and I think that's going to be fine. We do have a suspension design coming in 5 days, then we have 8 days for the rear wing and underfloor. That looks good. Apparently, we also have an F1 school simulation. Sure, we'll attend. Help spawn, I believe, new staff. Manufacture completed of the underfloor, and as you can see, chassis and rear wings in low stock, but again, it's not a big deal. And if we take a look at the new suspension that we have designed, is it anything to go by? It's actually pretty decent, all things considered. Small increase in everything. And we have our slot now. So, as I mentioned, I want to have a look at how our car looks versus everyone else's before we make a design decision. But let's just have a quick look here at what we can get out of a suspension if we make, say, another one. Nothing major on the gains here. Be a lot of medium. So in theory, we could make another one before we kind of go for manufacturing. But the gain is incredibly small, so I don't think it's going to be worth it. What I do want to do is have a look at car analysis, and we're currently falling a little bit behind other cars, so catching up. Let's have a look at the chassis, how ours stack up against everyone else's. Our drag reduction and cooling sucks. IFLO middle is third. Chassis needs a bit of work. Front wing is doing its job with the low speed and the medium speed. Might as well compare it to the Red Bull. Red Bull has a good high speed low wing, front wing, which is backwards. But yeah, the front wing seems to be pretty good. The rear wing, first in DRS, third, seventh in drag reduction, not good at cornering. Might be that we invest more CFD time into that. Side pods are not good at all. Might actually be worth it to invest in. The underfloor, well, good. It's not amazing. So we actually have a lot here that we could invest into to make our car a little bit better. But I think, as mentioned, side pods could be an option, just purely due to the fact that it would help us a little bit on the top speed. It would help us a little bit on the high-speed corners. And at this point, we could also sacrifice a little bit of engine cooling to make it happen. If we do it like this. So, as you can see, this alone would be a nice little boost. But then we make another one. Then we have a sideboard that is basically here for the rest of the season. It's not a huge boost by any means of the equation, though. So we might be better off just running standard ones. Let's have a look at the chassis and what we can get from that if we were to invest. And we could get a lot of top speed, which is again what we are lacking. And we could also retain most of our cornering abilities. So this is not a terrible idea. But I think we're getting that result even if we don't invest much, like this. So we could make this chassis just purely because it will allow us to get that top speed. And as you can see, it would bump us up into basically a top team in top speed. And again, 0.81 kph is not bad. So I think we'll just make this chassis normally without CFD time. It'll still do the job. Again, I'm fine with sacrificing this amount of cornering for this amount of top speed gain. We're also getting a little bit of engine cooling back. And again, we are running it a little bit low, but it's okay. We are basically going for performance. And I'll have a look at the underfloor once it's done and the front wing, and we'll make a decision. But I think we might just go ahead here and invest a little bit more into the rear wing. It might be the best option that we have available to us at the moment. Okay, more CFD time for the bottom teams. It probably will not affect us, but we're going to vote for that. That is fine. And do I want to manufacture the suspension? Yeah, we do. Let's go ahead and get 3 of those made for the time being. The underfloor, we'll take a look at that once it's done. The side pods we're going to be making more of them for sure. So we could make another one just to be on the safe side. Rear wing, it's okay, we can make them quick. Let's go ahead and get 2 front wings made. Or just 1, because Budapest is 4 days. That way we have options. Because both the underfloor and the rear wing is done now. So let's take a look at them. Make a few decisions on what we want to do with these designs. And this one is basically a boosted design, as mentioned, for cornering, which is kind of what we did last time. And now we'll add the top speed acceleration, top speed DRS, and then it will be complete. Now, what about that underfloor? So yeah, this basically, we made this one as more of a top speed boost compared to this one, and then we add the cornering back in. This one is actually pretty good. And I think what we're going to do here is just go ahead and compare car 1 with both the underfloor and the rear wing. Then I'll make a decision, because we have a car that is fairly good at what we want it to be good at, which is cornering. But I don't know exactly how high the expertise levels are in comparison to each other, which makes it a little bit hard to judge what would be the best investment, so to speak. But yeah, this could be decent enough. I made a mistake there. Again, I think this is going to be fine just to be as a final underfloor. I think the top speed that we need is going to be from the rear wing. And if we take a look at what we can do right now without CFD, like so, that's not a huge gain, just 18 kph. The DRS effectiveness is also not a huge gain, neither is the cornering. So if we want to do this, it is definitely going to be with an investment from the CFD and wind tunnel hours in order to boost the car even further. So I'm going to have to do something like this. I guess high speed is not a big focus, neither is medium nor low. So yeah, I'm kind of struggling with figuring out what is the best place to invest our CFD time right now, because it can be a pretty significant boost. Again, chassis side pods, they're kind of falling behind, so it could be a really, really good shout. I think with the top speed that we're getting this extra DRS effectiveness could also be good. A little bit of cornering ability would be nice. It's not going to be revolutionary or anything, but it would help in the long run. So let's go ahead, do another investment into the rear wing. It'll take 20 days, but it will be worth it, I do believe. So yeah, it's rough. It's rough for me to decide what we want to actually focus on, which sucks, but it is what it is. This will be the final edition underfloor. We'll not be making anything else after this. It'll lose a little bit of the kph we have now, but we'll get the cornering ability back, so that is fine. And since we don't really care about, getting anything else out of this, We're just gonna get it done quick, get it done for Sandworth, then we have the rest of the season ahead of us. And that is fine. We don't really have a lot of cost cap remaining. We're at 40 million. So we do need to be a little bit more careful with our designs as well going forwards. We do have the front wing in 2 days. I'll take a look at that as well. But, yeah, it's kind of difficult. I can give this boy 100k for his development. That's okay as well. Manufacturing has been completed of the chassis. That is also good, but it was the front wing that we were looking forward to. Let's have a look at this one. How much of an increase is it? It's very slight, but an increase is an increase, particularly also in the brake cooling department. 5482. And if we were to make another design, would it be worth it? Just want to have a look at that before we make a decision. Let's see here. It would be pretty decent boost on the high speed compared to what we have. Some more brake cooling, but let's face it, we're going to have to put in the weight. I don't think it's worth it to invest into another front wing. Like, we get a little bit of more high speed, but as I mentioned before, what we're currently lacking the most are the chassis, the side pods, for the most part. So I think just investing into upping the side pod even more is going to pay off more in the long run than us doing anything else with, well, the front wing. So the front wing, the underfloor, basically done. We'll be focusing the other full parts for the rest of the season. And we'll go ahead here and also put in the time here to get this side pod. We're probably going to manufacture this one because it's a okay upgrade, particularly 6% engine cooling. So let's go ahead and get this one made. We'll just do it normally though. That should be fine. It'll be ready a day before Sandworth, so we will not be able to use it. But it's okay. We can move engineers over from a different project once, say, the rear wing is done in 17 days. We can move some engineers over to the side pod. So yeah, I think that is it for today. We've focused a lot on the design for the last, basically just catching up, getting everything sorted. I've got my notepad here, so I'm going to be noting down what we've done so I don't forget until next time. But this weekend, I have a lot of time, so you'll probably be seeing 2 more episodes of, well, not 2 more episodes, 2 more videos of F1 Manager before I get back to playing anything else. So hopefully, I should be able to now, over the course of this next week or maybe next 2 weeks, close out some of these series so that I have a bit more confidence, a bit more knowledge about each series. Because right now, they are kind of blurring together somewhat in the design aspect. And it is making the cars worse. And it's making the viewer experience worse. And I do understand that. So hopefully, I'll be able to get back on track and not be as confused while making these videos. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. And I do hope to see you around next time. Again, thank you very much for your viewership. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.